Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kurt, and welcome back to Far Lands or Bust. This is episode 292. Woof, indeed. Now you're barking up a storm. Had to wait like 10 years. 10 years! Well, maybe not 10 years. 10 seconds for you to bark to start off the episode. We are ready to go. We need some wool. Remember to get some wool. That way is east, this way is west. And how convenient. There's a sheep. A sheep. Multiple sheep. Sheep-eye. Sheepies. Sheeporamas. Sheepadoodles. So yeah, episode 292 of Far Lands or Bust. Here we are. Continuing to walk to the Far Lands. It is Wednesday, September 11th, 2013. When this episode is being recorded. And fingers crossed that YouTube isn't a boob and actually allows proper uploads and publishing, because it has not been doing that lately. The website's just broken. Not like I'm depending on this to survive or anything. You doing all right there, Wolfie? Oh, you have a little bit of a downward tail. It's like a yoga pose. The downward tail. The 3D glasses wearing bulk? Wolf. Boosh. But yeah, what'd I say? Episode 292. Hi. Far Lands or Bust. We have raised, so far this season, $43,848.30 for Child's Play charity over at farlandsorbust.com. Are you not gonna... Sometimes he does not listen. You do not listen, Wolfie. There we go. That time he did. But that pig had nothing to offer. Let's see here. We have some sheep over here. So yeah, that's great. That's why... farlandsorbust.com. That's where that's taking place. You can check out the official Child's Play charity widget as provided by Child's Play charity. The funds go right to... What is that? Is that a sheep? Okay, I thought that was a skeleton down there. But it is not. It is a sheep. Some spooky place you're living here, guy. Excuse me. Over at farlandsorbust.com. Sorry, I'm scatterbrained. I missed an episode on Monday. Apologies, but I feel I must get back into the swing of things. Remember when you clipped into mobs? This is Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. In the newer versions of the games, you don't really clip into mobs so much. Or do you? I know you don't clip into each other. Certain mobs you don't clip into, and I don't think sheep and farm animals are one of them. So yeah. farlandsorbust.com. Donate to Child's Play charity. Ooh, I feel like I need to go back and like edit up the different parts of this intro because I've skipped around. I've been talking about Child's Play charity. I'm talking about it's homepage farlandsorbust.com. Oh, gotta get some sheep's wool. Oh, I'm clipping into the sheep and mobs. This is Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. All over the place. Not keeping a congruent train of thought. Is that the word? Congruent? That sounds like something I might have learned, a term in mathematics or something. Like a type of triangle or something. I don't know. That's why I failed math. Wolfie knows. Whoa! Alright, that was a bad time to be in my inventory. Alright, hold on. Let me just take care of some business, and we will continue on. Quick! Little, speaking of business, got a little bit of business to take care of. You guys know that I do have a Spreadshirt Shop. Far Lands or Bust Spreadshirt Shop. It's farlands.spreadshirt.com. And then farlands.spreadshirt.net is the European, the EU store. The .com is the North American US store. But they wanted me to let you know that from today through the 17th of September, you buy 2 items and you get free shipping with the code FALL2013. And that works in both the US and the EU storefronts. I know a lot of times they don't overlap or offer the same offers, but this time it does. So free shipping if you buy 2 items. I believe that's just items. I don't believe it has to be t-shirts or anything, because I also have mugs and buttons. I've ordered some of my own buttons. I was handing out a few at PAX. I did not bring enough, so I was being very stingy about passing them out. So some Farlands Bust. Some of those buttons have the Wolfie McWolfington seal of approval. Bing! And that's kind of cool. So yeah, if you're interested, there's a link in the description and on the end slate, and like I said, it could just go to farlands.spreadshirt.com. If you wanna help out the channel or anything like that, that's what that goes towards. So I appreciate it. But continuing on, I talked in the previous 2 episodes about PAX, about the weekend away in Seattle, hanging out with some of the Mindcrack and other YouTubers, hanging out with Good and Paws and Jay Sano and Lorgon111, a whole bunch of other people in that group. Good times, talked about that, but I kind of left it off where I was going to talk a little bit more just in general about the travels and Seattle. And I know I get questions a lot about if I like traveling or where in the world would I like to travel, if I could go anywhere, and I often say and remind you that I am not a big city person. I know living here near Chicago is that's my impression of a city. So Seattle is like, I think Seattle has less than 1 million residents, I think. And like, what does Chicago have? Like 10 million or something crazy? I don't know. I should have looked this up beforehand. So yeah, my scale for city might be a bit off. But yeah, going to Seattle, not a place that I would probably revisit if not for some sort of event like PAX or you know, something like that going on. Just not a big fan. It's an okay city. It seems my initial impressions were brought upon by the lady sitting in front of me on the train from the airport to the downtown area, who was vomiting into a plastic bag. Welcome to Seattle. That's obviously not, you know, the welcoming party for every person visiting Seattle, so I understand that. And, you know, she was with her family or something like that. I think she just had some excessive turbulence on the way in and probably couldn't handle it. Whatever, I forgive. But that was an interesting way to start off. I'm getting sick just thinking about it. No, that was an interesting way just to start off my weekend. But in general, it feels like to me, what with the Space Needle, or is that what it's called? Is it called the Space Needle? The needle, the big thing. The Space Needle, there's a monorail system downtown, and some of the architecture and stuff. It seemed like Seattle is a city with a lot of this stuff that was built to seem like the future, but 30 years ago, or something like that, you know? It's like, ooh, monorails, Space Needles. This is the way it's going to be in the year 2000. And it turns out that's not really the case. And all of that stuff is really now just... there's got to be a term for it, for something that is like futuristic but old. You know, like if you go back into the 50s, you know, the way they imagine flying cars and ovens that you put little packages in and an entire turkey dinner pops out, you know, stuff like that. Little robots that wash your car for you. Woof, Wolfie wants a robot that washes his car. It just had that air to it, and I was also, and I might be generalizing here, and I hope I'm not, and I certainly mean nothing derogatory about this comment, but I was surprised at the amount of homeless people on the streets of Seattle. I don't know if this is something recent with their economy or not, and coming from Chicago, I have not seen that many homeless people. I mean, you see there are homeless people in Chicago. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we're incredibly insensitive towards them and probably sweep them off the streets or under the overpasses, as is normally the place you'll see them, which is nothing I would be proud of to call myself a Chicagoan for, but I was just very surprised at the amount of homeless people in Seattle, like, all over the place. I mean, it doesn't seem like... I would imagine that a little bit more south, like LA, somewhere warm. I think Seattle gets kind of cold in the winter, so it was a little bit surprising. Maybe a little bit off-putting. I was offered drugs at one point. I do realize that Washington marijuana is legal possession. I don't think it's legal to sell or like have over a certain amount, but first time I was offered drugs on the street, guys, so happy days. Welcome to Seattle. Let's go to sleep and we'll continue talking in the morning. And I did not accept those drugs. Let me clarify. I should probably clarify. I ignored the individual offering said drugs and continued upon my way. But yeah, interesting experience. And I mean, they weren't really aggressive. Chicago in certain areas has some aggressive panhandlers, I guess you could call them. It's a totally legal activity, you know. You can't technically do anything about it unless you want to pass certain municipality laws in certain areas or something like that, but sometimes in Chicago they can get a bit aggressive and or scammy, but so didn't really encounter that in Seattle, but just it had kind of that, I don't know, there was well-meaning and good intentions, but there was kind of a weird film over the top of Seattle that gave me a bad taste in my mouth. And again, I'm not judging if you live there. I'm sure you love it if you do. I know Lorgon 111, Brian, and Seth Bling live in not downtown Seattle, obviously, but, you know, on the outskirts, just like I technically do not live smack dab downtown Chicago. So, you know, I can't really speak in regards to that either. So, but overall, there were plenty, far more than I've noticed in my area. There were plenty of restaurants offering gluten-free options. There were, you know, nice restaurants, nice areas. The walk from the hotel to the convention center was short and pleasant. It's a little bit of a contrast. When, like I said, when you say city, I think Chicago and miles upon miles of skyscrapers and the Sears Tower and the Hancock Center and, you know, buses and cabs everywhere and just, like, noises and, like, it's basically like the Grand Canyon, but made out of, what's the word I'm looking for? Buildings on either side and the concrete jungle, I guess you could say. So Seattle was a little bit like, oh, this is kind of just like taking a few blocks out of Chicago and plunking it down on the western seaboard. So yeah, that was kind of my, I guess, general opinion of Seattle. Nobody really asked. I just figured that was part of travels. People would be interested. The outside areas, and when I went walking around and talking to Brian and stuff, the outside areas, I got to see on the clear day Mount Rainier, Mount Balls, Mount Rainier. That's very cool. And I know Brian was saying the outer areas, a lot of forests, national parks, the mountains, obviously, the mountains. And I suppose if you went further west across the Sound, you could, I suppose the Pacific coastline is probably picturesque. I don't know. I've never even considered the Pacific coastline as like a destination. So if I were to go back to that area, I would not probably go back for Seattle, but I would go back for like the surrounding areas and stuff like that. That would be cool. So yeah. That is how that cookie crumbles. So continuing on, like I said, we normally in these episodes, if you've joined in the last 3 episodes, you think all I talk about are my travels and conventions. No. I actually take questions with those donations to Child's Play charity. You can leave a little comment, and I take questions because after 292 episodes, I've plumb run out of things to talk about, so I take these questions, almost anything and everything. I hand select the finest of fruits and take those questions to give me things to talk about. And I think I will get to some more here as we are about halfway into this episode. These episodes last 3 Minecraft days here. So, from donator Tad Moore, where's Tad Less? Tad Moore asked, what? Oh, nope, he did not ask that. He asked, I was wondering if you can remember the first... If you can remember the first... What first? Blah. What first got you interested in the space program? For me, it was watching the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon as a kid. From the Earth to the Moon as a kid. Well, I'm old. Didn't that just come out? From the Earth to the Moon. That was the miniseries. That was... somebody got me that on DVD. I don't like it too much. It's kind of, it's kind of in the... It's not documentary style. It's reenactments. Produced or directed by Tom Hanks and... whatever, Steven Spielberg, something like that. Kind of the Band of Brothers style team that made From the Earth to the Moon. Kind of dramatized and a little bit fictionalized, I guess. If you really want to see a really cool, it's a single video, I think Ron Howard, after the fact, started to foot the bill for In the Shadow of the Moon. That is a good documentary about the Apollo program, and it talks to the Apollo astronauts, and there's very good sequences with archival footage and things, and it's really quite emotional of a series. Similarly, the recent Discovery Channel miniseries documentary called what was that one called? When We Left Earth, the history of the last 50 years of NASA. That follows actually NASA from the Mercury, even pre-Mercury days, through Apollo, and then through the Space Shuttle and International Space Station, the Hubble, all that stuff. The manned program, they don't really touch on the unmanned robotic programs on that. But what got me interested in the space program? I was always kind of taken by it as a kid. I do remember, I don't know if I saw it live or not, but I do remember as a young kid, I was probably 4 or 5, probably 4, maybe 5 before I went into first grade because I was still at home. I remember a lot about the Challenger disaster, and like I said, I can't remember if I actually was watching that live on TV or if that's just the replays. A lot of people have kind of a shared, although somewhat inaccurate memory of that, saying, oh, I watched that live on TV, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were just seeing replays and stuff, because it really wasn't, looking back at it, it wasn't being carried on many networks live or anything like that. So I kind of remember that and being interested in space shuttles, and maybe that had a little bit of an impact on me. But like I've told this story many times, I was always interested in space and the space program and stuff, but growing up, nobody else really around me was, or really kind of, I guess there was nowhere there to nurture the that little spark, I suppose you could say. So I kind of up and forgot about it until really quite recently, say 4 or 5 years ago, when I started getting into looking at, well, I suppose even earlier than that. I remember watching the live landing of the Pathfinder mission with the Sojourner rover on Mars. I remember watching that and being very interested. I remember through college watching the live, quote-unquote, live landings of the 2 exploration rovers. Also, concurrently, what was it? The European one that was lost. It was landing about the same time. Beagle? Was it the Beagle? Beagle lander or something like that? I remember being interested in watching that stuff. But recently I really got into it from when I was starting to read up and realize you watch the International Space Station flybys fly over your house. And I remember getting up early one morning to see that, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Space station going overhead. So I really got into watching the progress. They were still building it. I'd watch the launches live. I would try my best and fail to see a launch in person of the space shuttle, but kind of just snowballed there. And then, when you're out looking up at the sky trying to see the space station or satellites fly over, you start to notice the stuff in the background. And that's kind of how I really started to be like, I really want like a nice telescope. So then I got into an astronomy club and helped me pick out a telescope. And then I have 2 and 3 now. And this is a broken up area. So I got into the astronomy side of things. So yeah, it was really, I don't know that I could pinpoint one specific moment, but all that stuff's really cool. I did, on the way, like I mentioned, I don't read. End sentence. I don't read because I have always found it difficult and not enjoyable. So I did find, through means of unspoken nature, an MP3 of Carl Sagan's Pale Blue Dot audiobook, and listened to that on the way to Seattle. And that's an interesting audiobook to listen to while you're at 35,000 feet and looking over the lands if you have a window seat. You tend to get a little bit mystical and, he's talking about the far reaches of the human influence, and you see all the patterns of the circular farmlands and cities and dams, and in between Chicago and Seattle, there are some really big tracts of mining, like strip mining operations. I don't know what they're mining for. Let's go to sleep. That moon is actually rising quite quickly. And awakeness. I suppose the moon was rising at its normal pace. It just, I was lingering far too long. So yeah, I did listen to that on the way, and that was very enjoyable. I was thinking I didn't have the space for it. The space for it. Pale Blue Dot, space, cosmos. I didn't have the space for it, but I wanted to also bring the book and try to follow along in the book. But I didn't do that, so listening was good enough. So yes, thank you very much, everybody, for your skeleton residue. Anybody? For your suggestions to try out audiobooks instead of trying to read the books, because that worked out quite well. Wolfie agrees. Trees. Oh, hi. Hey, let's not stop to smell the roses. We've got somebody on our trail here. This is a cool little land. It's like, see, this is the sort of stuff that I'm kind of hoping returns in the update 1.7, the full, this is going to be so confusing, the full update release. In the current terrain generations, it seems when you get a forest, like bam, forest, a tree every 5 blocks. As opposed to this terrain generation, it's much more sparse, dithered. You got this kind of ring of trees, a few here and there, and then you have this little clearing here, but there could be a distinct path through that direction, and some more dense trees. More dense trees in that direction. It's a lot more random. It seems like after the 1.8 terrain update and the subsequent updates, things became a little bit too precise and pre-planned. Like, this is a plains biome. Every plains biome must be like this. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit more of this variety. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, really. It's this very boring terrain, really, but just the fact of how it's laid out and how the trees... Like, here's a clump of trees. That could naturally happen. You have the main, I suppose, ancestor tree that has dropped its seeds and it's kind of spreading around. I don't know what's going on here, some crossbreeding, but you got this one tree right here for no reason. I like it. Well done, terrain generation of Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. Well done. Alright, so yeah, Tadmore, thank you very much for that question. Gave me some stuff to answer. Oh, somebody else asked pretty much the same thing, anonymously. We know your love of space, but how did it start? What first piqued your interest and got you into it? That stuff of what I just previously said. Another anonymous question. What do you think of the NASA plan to lasso an asteroid? Time. Well, I wouldn't really put too much... that's lava. Put too much weight on Time magazine, what they say. But Time recently did an article saying that just going back to the moon would be better. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read up enough on it to have really formed too much of an educated opinion about it. But it does seem like one of those missions. Like, there are people who say, oh, we shouldn't go back to the moon, we've already been there. You know, people saying, oh, we shouldn't go to Mars, it's too dangerous, and we don't have the technology to do that. So it's kind of like, well, here's something else we can do. There's really no significant reason why we should do it. We do have robotic missions that have visited asteroids and comets, even taken samples of these asteroids and comets to bring them back to Earth. So it's kind of, will lassoing and bringing an asteroid into a capture orbit or a Lagrange point orbit, like and certainly I'm not saying that every mission has to have some sort of immediate economic, global, or scientific, what's the word I'm looking for? Worth, feedback, payback, pay, recoup. That's kind of a problem with some people in the government. This has also been happening in the UK as well. Feel like in order to give government funding to science projects, they must prove their economic worth. And that's really quite dangerous and a topic for an entirely separate video. Actually, is it 60 Symbols? Or one of that group from the University of Nottingham? I said it right, I think. Did a good video when those sorts of legislature was going through their parliament there, about how that's very dangerous to have science prove that what they're studying is later on, or actually within immediate time scale, going to pay back. You know, it's going to bring profits to the economy, because the majority of discoveries aren't really able to be, you know, they're not seen right off the bat. You know, like penicillin was found accidentally. You know, you don't really. Oops, excuse me. Vaccines. You know, even the MRI scanners. They were made by physicists, I believe. MRI scanners. You know, they were looking to use the technology for something else, and then they realized, oh, hey, we can like see into people's bodies. So, you know, stuff like that you can never see is really the true value of science. But anyway, like I said, a whole nother video. There are videos out there. If I can find one, maybe I'll put the link in the doobly-doo. But yeah, I don't feel like they need to prove the worth. I mean, if it serves as some sort of midway point to, okay, if we can do this, then we can expand upon this technology. Saying if we can do this, as in if we can bring an asteroid into capture orbit or something like that, then we can use these technologies in the same principles and training to then bring somebody to Mars or something like that. But yeah, it does almost seem like maybe going to the moon might be a bit more of a mission to undertake, but of course that's also maybe forgetting the point that the reason we went to the moon in the first place was not science and exploration, it was war. We were trying to race the Russians, and gotta beat the communists to the moon, or else they're gonna turn it into a intercontinental ballistic missile base, or, you know, something like that. But I don't know, the politics of space. Ooh, did you hear that? Thunder. We have weather in Minecraft Farlands or Bust for once. And it's actually not in the game. It's outside my window. Huh, I did not know there was going to be thunder today. It's very, very warm out. We're in the 90s, which I believe is like 34 degrees Celsius and above. So I think probably a cold front is coming through is what that is. Woof! Weatherman Wolfie! What's the update? No, woof! Thunder! It's gonna rain! Aha! Alright, so there that goes. Let's see. I suppose similarly, kind of turned into an astronomy question series here. Will you ever do any more Stellarium episodes in the future? I found them quite interesting. What events on the night sky are visible during a certain month? Am I going the right way? Yeah. During a certain month, and it would be nice if you could maybe oh, spawner. Show these kinds of things. Whoa, careful. Where does this question go? Show these kinds of things and where and how to find them more often. Yeah, I thought about that, and I don't know. I think I'm a little, as always, my channel, I'm always, ho, 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 let's be careful, let's be careful. All right, everybody calm down. Let's not have this entire place collapse underneath us as he continues digging more and more sand. All right, what kind of a spawner is this? So, Spoider. Spoider spawner, I will take that iron, and the bread really just takes up an inventory space. And the other chest could be anywhere. Well, I guess not anywhere. It's nowhere. Oh, there it is. Holy crumbs at the bread. Holy breadcrumbs. I do not need a bucket, but thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'll be alright without the bread, I think. I got a stack of wheat I can make stuff with. Let's do this. Let's get out of here. Very interesting spawner. Let's be careful, Wolfie. I need you... Oh, it's getting dark. Maybe we should live in the spawner. No, I don't think that one's very safe. Let's see... Maybe this area over here. That looks like some sort of cave entrance I'll try to avoid. So yeah, possibly more Stellarium videos. I'm kind of... Go fetch. I'm kind of in a state of flux capacitoriness. Oh, Wolfie, Wolfie. Trying to figure out... Hey, yeah, sit. What to do with my channel. I mean, that is something that I wanted to do. I know I kept saying, oh, I'm going to do these monthly and what's up in the night sky, but I don't feel like I'm qualified to sometimes. Like, I start to get in on that, and then I'm like, I'm actually not currently active in astronomy, so I feel a little bit like I don't have... I'm not in the know to be providing those night sky things, but maybe. You never know. You can never count anything out. Right now, I'm trying to do my best to keep up with Farlands or Bust. Doing things, trying to encourage some donations to Child's Play charity. Segue over at farlandsorbust.com. Leave a comment with your donation, with a question, and I will attempt to get to it in a future episode of Farlands or Bust. What else? Do I have a boat? No, I need a boat. Got that coupon at Spreadshirt. Want to check out. And yeah, I do appreciate you guys. Oh, that's something I didn't talk about. Cards Against Humanity. I didn't like it. That's the long and short of it. Maybe I'll talk about that in the next episode. We played some Cards Against Humanity for the first time, or for my first time, while we were at PAX with a bunch of the people we were hanging out with, and I'll give my 2 cents about it in the next episode. Spoiler alert, I didn't like it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode of Farlands or Bust. My name is Kurt. I will see you next time.